News at 6.
From around the world and from our headquarters in New York, this is the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather.
Good evening. Thousands of union members marched up Manhattan's Fifth Avenue this Labor Day, celebrating what was characterized as a century of labor progress. President Reagan, although he was in the city, was not invited to join the other politicians in the parade. We have reports from Steve Young and Bill Plant.
It was the first New York City Labor Day parade since apathy canceled the annual event 13 years ago. Today, perhaps because of intermittent rain, there were far more workers demonstrating on behalf of all sorts of labor causes than there were spectators lining Fifth Avenue. About 4,000 members of the Professional Air Traffic Controllers Union were the focus of the event, the largest assembled group of controllers since the PATCO strike began 5 weeks ago. President Reagan was not invited, but symbolically was represented by a protest marcher. PATCO President Robert Poli today downplayed a report that some sort of secret negotiations between the union and the government have been underway.
There's not secret negotiations. I said there was a line of communications. There's no negotiations going on at this time.
On this Labor Day, how would you characterize the state of relations between Labor and the Reagan administration?
I don't think it's very good. I appreciate all the Labor support.
Labor has locked horns with the Reagan administration on domestic policy and is going to take on the Reagan White House on a major foreign policy issue as well. AFL-CIO President Lane Kirkland says his organization will lobby against the sale of AWAC radar planes to Saudi Arabia.
We are representing our views on the matter before the Congress of the United States, who will have to make the decision. There's a move in the Senate and in the House to veto it, and we're supporting that move.
Kirkland, who told the crowd Labor has survived many presidents, pointedly refused to mention Ronald Reagan by name.
How would you describe your feelings about Mr. Reagan today?
I wouldn't. Give me Labor Day without that, will you please?
Kirkland said the labor movement will continue to look after the interest of workers, whatever the obstacles, whatever the opposition. Steve Young, CBS News, New York.
The absence of an invitation to Labor's parade did not keep the president from coming to New York City this Labor Day. His staff reasoned that Mr. Reagan, like other visitors to the Big Apple, would be welcome if he brought money, $85 million to be exact. So the president, fulfilling a campaign promise, came to announce the first installment of federal funds for the controversial Westway project, an enormous 10-year landfill and highway program to rejuvenate Manhattan's Lower West Side waterfront. At Tracy Mansion, the mayor's residence, where some labor leaders joined the politicians, Mr. Reagan alluded to organized labor's snub.
Some of us here have come from another Labor Day celebration, some have not. But next year, we should all come back and march together, knowing that because of what was done here today, tens of thousands of working people who are out of jobs will be working again.
The administration claims that the Westway project will create more than 50,000 jobs over the next 10 years, which ties in with Mr. Reagan's hopes for economic recovery.
The key to everything we're trying to accomplish is jobs, and as I said yesterday, jobs, jobs, and more jobs. Promises and programs, subsidies and studies, welfare and make work have all been tried by well-meaning individuals. But any worker knows a job is the best social program there is.
The federal government is committed to pay 90% of the cost of Westway, which could amount to more than $2 billion. New York State will pay the rest. It costs the city nothing, and Mayor Ed Koch was delighted.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I don't in any way want to impugn the efficiency of the United States Postal Service, but I'm always happier when the check is in my hand and not in the mail.
So saying, Koch and the president donned hard hats and posed with an enormous facsimile of a check for $85 million. The mayor won't be taking it to the bank, however. It's only symbolic. The real money comes later. Mr. Reagan paid off two old political debts today, one to the construction workers of New York and New Jersey who supported him, and one to New York's Democratic Mayor Ed Koch, who did not oppose him. He also managed to celebrate Labor Day without ever mentioning organized labor, most of whose leaders oppose him. Instead, he praised American workers, most of whom he believes support him. Bill Plant, CBS News, with the presidential party in New York City.
Later in Washington, President Reagan talked with reporters about scaling down his plans for increased military spending. Leslie Stahl is at the White House.
As the president returned to the White House, he acknowledged that he will have to make cuts in the defense budget and that he will see the Pentagon's proposals for those cuts for the first time tonight. Last week, his top White House aides examined Secretary Weinberger's proposals, found them lacking in detail, and so sent them back for more work. The revised package arrives tonight, and officials say it contains 3 options explaining what it will mean to cut defense spending in 1983 and 84 by $29 billion, or by about $20 billion, or by roughly $12 billion.
I think there can be some cuts every place, but it does not mean there's any retreat from our determination to rebuild the military.
The open warfare among the president's advisors over the defense budget has become a source of embarrassment for the president.
There's not really any bickering. That loses something in the translation. No, everybody's got their ideas and opinions, and we openly debate them, but I think you will find there's a great simpatico and a great accord among them. They'll all go along with the decision.
The president is expected to make his decision on the defense budget on Wednesday after a meeting with Weinberger, who was said to favor the $12 billion figure, and Budget Director Stockman, who is arguing that if the figure is not in the $30 billion range, then drastic and politically painful cuts will have to be sought in social programs. Leslie Stahl, CBS News, the White House.
Know what? For intestinal gas pains and pressure, I found these Gas X tablets so much better.
Watch. Intestinal gas bubbles are much like bubbles in beer. Add the leading antacid here, Gas X here, and stir. 1 minute later, antacid shows little change, but Gas X breaks the gas bubbles. They're almost gone.
For intestinal gas pains and pressure after meals, get medically proven relief. Gas X.
When I smoke cigars at home, my friends never object, because I've got a Pollenex Pure Air 99. It has a 4-stage filter, including activated charcoal. It removes smoke, pollen, and dust, everything but your relatives. Smoke goes in here, clean air comes out here. And you can even dial a citrus scent, or no scent at all. These are my friends. They're crazy about my Pure Air 99 from Pollenex. Right, girls?
The National Congress of Poland's independent union Solidarity, in its 3rd day of meetings, heard warnings of a tough battle ahead with the Warsaw government. And nearby maneuvers by more than 100,000 Soviet troops were a strong reminder of Moscow's displeasure with the labor movement. Doug Sefton has more from Gdansk.
The 900 delegates are working through a blizzard of proposals, 300 of them so far, designed to revise union statutes and reorganize union procedures. The basic problem is that in the heat of the conflict from which the independent union emerged a little over a year ago, many of the statutes and procedures were decided in haste. Now, even though the breathing space is limited, the leadership feels revisions must be accomplished. Solidarity head Lech Wałęsa took to the rostrum today to argue for more centralized control. He pointed out that when you're heading into battle, you need generals. There's argument against this approach from those who point out that the union wants more democracy from the communist government and then develops a substitute authoritarian bureaucracy. There are distractions from the business at hand, though, like the Bydgoszcz prison riot that occupied the Congress for a while yesterday. 150 prisoners who barricaded the wing of the prison gave up today after mediation by local Solidarity. But police had to use force to disperse a crowd outside the prison. The crowd had managed to infiltrate the police cordon that had sealed off the area earlier. And today, a delegation appointed by the Congress laid a wreath at the Gdansk monument outside the shipyard that was the focus of last year's strike and where workers were killed during a 1970 uprising. But for the most part, the Congress plods on. The electric scoreboard and the sports arena where the Congress is being held, calling delegates to their working committee assignments.
It's all very businesslike, and it's going well, considering that this is the first time anything like this has happened in a communist nation.
But a delegate from Silesia questioned whether Solidarity could afford the luxury of so much time devoted to its own affairs. Outside this hall, there are grave problems, he said, and the people of Poland are looking for answers. Doug Sefton, CBS News, Gdansk.
Soviet-supported Afghan troops reportedly crossed 3 miles into Pakistan today and confiscated weapons in a house-to-house search of a border village. Radio Pakistan says it was the same village strafed and bombed by Afghan jets over the weekend. If the radio report is correct, it would be the first time that the Afghan Army's Soviet-supported ground forces have operated in Pakistani territory. There was another protest today against the regime of Iran's Ayatollah Khomeini. In London, the Iranian consulate was invaded by dozens of Iranian students who said they supported the Mujahideen rebel movement trying to overthrow Khomeini. 54 of the protesters were arrested after about 15 minutes inside the building.
Warning, pollen can trigger bronchial asthma attacks. Be prepared with Primatene Mist. Primatene, the fastest type relief known for occasional attacks, restores free breathing in as fast as 15 seconds. Or, to keep breathing freely for hours, Primatene tablets. In the lungs, Primatene opens clogged breathing tubes, relaxes bronchial spasms, restores free breathing. Primatene Mist, the fastest type relief known. Primatene tablets contains the asthma reliever doctors recommend most.
Look what you can make, look what you can do. Make it bright, make it fun, make it good as new. Yes, you, look what you can do with Elmer's glue. Yes, you, look what you can do with Elmer's glue. Yes, you, look what you can do with America's can-do glue.
Groups opposing an Energy Department plan to dump nuclear waste near Carlsbad, New Mexico, took their case to court. But today, as David Dick reports, demonstrators moved their protests outside the courtroom and found themselves headed for jail.
100 to 150 demonstrators gathered on the road leading to the nuclear waste site still under construction. The project is called WIP, Waste Isolation Pilot Plant. The demonstrators included members of CARD, Citizens for Alternatives to Radioactive Dumping. CARD, a coalition of statewide groups and individuals, opposes the completion of WIP, a $500 million installation where round-the-clock drilling is in progress. The plan is to cut through a salt dome in the semi-arid grassland east of Carlsbad and carve out 10-acre caverns more than 2,000 feet below the surface. The U.S. Department of Energy is building a permanent repository for low-level Defense Department nuclear waste. Some of today's demonstrators had planned to commit acts of civil disobedience. They crawled under road barricades and proceeded toward the construction site. They were warned that they would be arrested. 21 demonstrators sat down, were handcuffed, and then taken away to jail. Most were charged with criminal trespass. 8 reporters and photographers covering the story, including CBS cameraman Patrick O'Dell, were also placed under arrest and also charged with criminal trespass. There were no known injuries. David Dick, CBS News, Dallas.
The Navy said today that 2 jet fighters collided on the flight deck of the carrier Kitty Hawk during maneuvers in the Indian Ocean. 1 deck crewman was killed. A spokesman said that an A-7E Corsair in a landing approach collided with an F-14 that was taxiing. The $17 million F-14 was knocked overboard, but its 2-man crew ejected. This was the second fatal accident on a U.S. aircraft carrier in less than 4 months.
If you're worried about stains on your dentures, don't have the cherry pie unless you have the cream, Denture Cream. And don't have the coffee unless you have the cream, Denture Cream. Denture Cream's powerful anti-stain formula helps brush away tough stains, and its refreshing mint flavor leaves dentures clean and fresh. So don't have the berries unless you have the cream. Anti-stain formula, Denture Cream, with refreshing mint.
If you think you need extra strength pain relievers for headache relief, you should know this. A new medical study shows the amount of pain reliever in extra strength Tylenol is no more effective for headaches than Bayer aspirin. The fact is, there is no medical study proving that any pain reliever you can buy gives more headache relief than Bayer. Not Anacin, Excedrin, nothing. Why pay for extra medicine? For headaches, nothing gives you more relief than Bayer. Nothing.
The Labor Day weekend is one of those holiday weekends when we Americans take to the road. No one has estimated how many of us wind up with traffic tickets or how many pay them with no more resistance than a shrug. But Fred Graham has the story of a lawyer in Texas who has made a business out of fighting back.
Texans love to drive cars, and in Lubbock, the police gave out more traffic tickets last year than there were adults in all of Lubbock. That gave lawyer Bobby Kaiser a bright idea.
So many people think that tickets are one of those things that you lay down and die with. Well, it's beginning to affect more people. Those people lay down and die with, I didn't do it, I wasn't guilty of something, but they go pay it, and then they get to their fourth ticket. They don't know that on the fourth ticket they're going to lose their license.
So Kaiser created an institution called the Ticket Clinic that does nothing but defend traffic cases at bargain basement prices, $45 for a jury trial in city court. A speeding fine is only $23, but the impact on insurance rates and driver's licenses can be devastating. Kaiser now has ticket clinics in 5 Texas cities, but his dream is to franchise them like hamburger stands. Ticket clinics across the country linked by computers so that a person will have a lawyer to fight a ticket even miles from home.
We aren't trying to advocate go out and speed. We're trying to advocate stand up for your rights. You're an American citizen and you have the right to use the court system.
Kaiser and the ticket clinic attorney in Lubbock acknowledge that their strategy for using the system includes delaying tactics and buildup of a court backlog. As for the local establishment's opinion of the ticket clinic's mass market approach, just listen to this odd compliment from Judge Cecil Purrier.
The man who handles the actual trial of cases in this court, I think he's a good lawyer. I think he handles his business. He's over here at least 4 days out of the week and usually anywhere from 6 to 8 hours. In fact, he didn't even have time to talk to the clients. We have to recess during the middle of the trial for him to talk to his clients, sometimes for the first time.
In fact, Purrier is skeptical of the whole ticket clinic concept, and he wonders why anyone would pay $36,000 for a franchise.
My personal experience has been a ticket clinic doesn't have any special expertise I've seen in trying traffic cases. And, if you want to buy a name, they've got some swampland in Florida they'd be glad to sell too.
But Bobby Kaiser still dreams of becoming the Burger King of traffic tickets.
You've got to understand, we're also turning the law into a good business.
Is this going to make you a millionaire?
It'll make me some money.
And how is the city of Lubbock bearing up under the ticket clinic assault?
We feel like that we are going to have stronger enforcement. Our enforcement is good today, but it's going to be better tomorrow. And we're going to be encouraging more and more our police officers to give more and more tickets where they see violations occur.
Bobby Kaiser is hoping that other cities also refuse to be intimidated.
Here's your written promise to contact the court within the next 12 days.
Fred Graham, CBS News, Lubbock, Texas.
A row of barrels containing chemical solvent exploded today and started the worst fire in Manchester, England in at least 10 years. Flames roared through a chemical plant for 6 hours. More than 1,000 persons in the neighborhood were evacuated to nearby schools and rest centers. The body of one man was found in the wreckage. As the fire spread, it set off more explosions, which could be heard 5 miles away. A light plane which stalled and crash-landed in San Jose, California early today literally went to pot. The plane plowed into a backyard shed full of marijuana plants. One passenger was injured critically. Another passenger and the pilot had lesser injuries. The resident of the house was arrested on charges of cultivating marijuana and interfering with police and firefighters who trampled his prize crop. Wary scientists ventured inside Mount St. Helens crater today, just hours after a half-mile plume of steam shot over the volcano's rim. A small eruption yesterday, following some earthquake activity, only deepened the mystery for scientists who are pondering the possibility the volcano may be running out of steam, at least temporarily. This latest eruption of the lava dome, although forecast, was much smaller than anticipated. In spite of the slight activity, a 20-mile area around the mountain remains closed as a precaution.
The secret of a fine wood finish is no secret.
It's Minwax, a very trusted name in wood finishing products. See how easy it is to bring out the best color in wood with Wood Finish by Minwax. And for extra protection, take your choice of polyurethanes and other protective finishes by Minwax. The difference shows with wood finishing products by Minwax. And that's no secret.
Old Spice has been putting messages in bottles for years. A message of clean, a message of brisk, an exotic blend of fragrances that communicates a presence unmistakably masculine. The timeless message every woman understands. For as long as men use Old Spice, women get the message.
We hesitate telling you this on what should be your day off, but the experts are saying you'd better prepare to keep active when you retire. Retirement, says Richard Keeler of the President's Council of Physical Fitness and Sports, quote, is a time to get out of the rocking chair, get off the sidelines and into the game. That will be a major theme when more than 600 delegates attend a two-day meeting of the National Conference on Fitness and Aging in Washington this week. The physiology of aging, says Keeler, can be reduced and prevented by exercise and proper diet. Peter J. McGuire, the New Yorker who started it all just a century ago, suggested setting aside the first Monday in September to honor labor. In his phrase, the great vital force of the nation. But since 1978, union membership has declined by at least 500,000. And as CBS News labor correspondent Lim Tucker reports, one problem facing the labor movement these days is restoring that sense of vitality.
If there is one word which characterizes much of organized labor's first 100 years, that word may be struggle. We want, said Samuel Gompers, considered by most to be the father of organized labor, more of the opportunities to cultivate our better natures. Those opportunities did not come without some bloodshed, and today, partly as a result of that bloodshed, many people credit the labor movement with bringing about a better life for most Americans. Now many labor leaders see the struggle as fighting an administration which they feel is out to destroy some of their hard-won economic and social gains. So this Labor Day parade here in New York City was staged to protest Ronald Reagan, who was in town but was not invited. The march idea, clearly a tactic from a glorious past, is being used to fight what labor leaders consider today's obvious problem. The deeper problem may be that much of the labor movement is out of step with today's workers.
Labor unions are suffering somewhat from their own success because they achieved most of the things they went after.
People are more educated today than they have been in the past. And as a result of that, they are expecting to get more out of life than they used to anticipate. And this is calling for some new kinds of things at the workplace.
What has changed more than anything in the last 100 years is the worker, the very person unions need for their survival. Only a third of the nation's laborers are still in the old-line manufacturing jobs where unions are strongest, and once the unions clearly knew how to represent those people.
In the old labor movement, the boss used to be the bum. He isn't anymore. Now the Japanese are the bums, which means that you got to join together with your boss and fight the Japanese.
Many labor unions resist the notion of blurring the traditional lines between management and the worker. Others are beginning to understand that such cooperation may represent survival. For example, at Buick's Factory 81 in Flint, Michigan, laborers are organized into small work groups. Each one learns all jobs, and the old assembly line is gone. Each person has a say in how the workplace is organized, how the jobs are done, along with management. In this plant, there are no time clocks, none of the old line foremen, yet quality of the product, says management, is better than ever because each worker is now responsible for ensuring that quality. The experiment has the workers sounding just like some of those TV commercials.
We're all working for a common goal, to get out a quality part and have satisfaction in our workplace.
It's built on trust, you know, your honor. That's what it's all about.
It makes me want to come to work.
Heather Brantley and her co-workers are in heavy industry. Most of the nation's more than 100 million workers are in service jobs. white-collar professionals or near professionals, office workers, computer operators, school teachers, and air traffic controllers. Some are union, some are not, but they, along with the workers at Buick's Factory 81, have one thing in common.
He wants to be treated very decently. He wants to be a professional, really. The air controllers want to be pilots. I don't know what pilots want to be. Maybe they want to be symphony orchestra conductors. But everybody wants to move up a little bit in the hierarchy.
Many workers today would say to you, look, instead of getting me a wage increase, get me an ability to have more time off to spend with my family. Or give me more options in what I'm able to do in terms of my life's career at the workplace. Don't put me in a mold and leave me there. Permit me to change in the process.
That may be the biggest challenge for the labor movement, since it has always worked on the theory of good for the masses, that everyone should be treated equally. But over the next 20 years, none of the millions of new workers, most of them women, blacks, and Hispanics, will remember the so-called good old days of solidarity forever, or know the words to the song, "The Union Makes Us Strong." They will look to the union only if the union can change rapidly enough to meet their needs. Lem Tucker, CBS News, New York.
And that's our report for this Labor Day. Until tomorrow, Dan Rather, CBS News, New York. Good night.
When Europeans get together with friends, they serve their wine in a carafe. Thanks to Paul Masson, we can enjoy this same tradition. Paul Masson's attractive carafe, an easy way to enjoy our great wines, like cool, delicious Paul Masson Chablis, rich, mellow Burgundy, or delightful rosé. The Paul Masson carafe. The time has come for this great way to serve a great wine.
I gotta get to a phone. Honey, take the kids and get on the plane.
We'll stay right here.
We're gonna make this vacation.
Come on.
14, now boarding through gate 5.
American Express Refund Center.
We lost our traveler's checks.
Don't run.
They were gone.
Where did you purchase your checks? Where's Dad?
That's it? A full refund? Thanks.
The majority of people who call American Express have a full refund approved within 12 minutes. So ask for American Express by name.
Looking for someone?
From around the world and from our headquarters in New York, this has been the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather. The MX missile. Can you hide a pea in a nuclear shell game? The story tomorrow on Morning. This is CBS.
Lawmakers say there's no money for more prison guards because they weren't asked to appropriate any. We'll have that story for you.